Alright, so welcome to P-Pot. This is Pio, your host, and I'm here today with
Leonardo Akle.
Leonardo Akle. Okay, first of all, let's start about this topic. As you guys can see in the caption, it's what should you know about law school. Well, first of all, I wasn't just going to bring anybody. I had to bring someone with experience. So I brought Leo. Leo has a Juris Doctorate,
Yes.
right? Correct?
Yeah.
And you got that from?
Southern University Law Center over in Louisiana.
Okay, so as you guys are asking, what is a Juris Doctorate?
It
like to
is,
explain?
in simple terms, just a law degree for you to be able to practice law.
Okay, so basically a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
Well, you see like the guy Saul from Better Call
Yeah,
Saul.
the crazy guys that are always yelling.
So, how was it? The experience, first of all, from law school.
It was definitely an experience. It was fun. The first year, like we were talking, was the hardest. And it gets easier after that, but once you make it after the first year, you know you could complete the second and the third year. So as far as experience go, if you could get past the first year, it's a fun ride after that.
And as you guys may be asking, what is really law school? How do you get to law school? That's the question.
So first, obviously, you got to finish high school and then get a 4-year bachelor's degree. It doesn't matter what degree you get. I know most lawyers, they usually go for a political science degree. And then from there, you apply, you take the LSAT. If you get the certain score that you get, you start applying for law schools, then they send you the acceptance letter wherever you get accepted, and you start law school for 3 years, and the rest is history.
The rest is history. So that is law school. It is one of the hardest grad schools to do, correct?
Yes, sir. Next to medical school.
Next to med school. And there's a lot of difference between law school than just a regular undergrad school, correct?
Yeah. So in undergrad, it's like we were discussing, law school is a mature version of high school. Undergrad, you finish your semester and you move on. You get a whole new set of people in your classes. Most of the time you don't even know them. In law school, it's the same 200 people that you're going to be graduating with in 3 years that you're going to be in the classes with for all 3 years. And even to go in depth with that, they usually split them up into 4 different groups for scheduling and class purposes. And that group that you're with is usually those 50 people are who you're going to ride with for those.
So you have classes with those people every day?
Pretty much, yeah. You got the same schedule, you got same teachers, same classes, everything.
Wow.
It's exactly like high school.
Really? And how does the schedule work? Is it Monday through Friday type of high school?
So your first year, they make you go, at least with my law school that I went to, Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to about 1 p.m. with obviously a little lunch period. After that, your second year is usually about 3 days a week. You get to do your schedule after that. 3L year, which is the third year, I think I went 2 days out of the week for law school, but obviously they're packed from morning until the evening time. Yeah.
Okay, so what are the big assignments? Because I heard, I don't know if it's true, that in law school there's no like homework, because there's literally like exams
Yeah.
and just the big practices. So what do you do?
So law school is graded on your final exam. Some classes will have a midterm, but and that midterm is worth probably 20% of your grade. Like I said, most of your grading comes from your final exam, which is good for some people because you get one exam to do and you're done. But for others that aren't good at test taking, it can be very stressful because your whole semester's worth of work for that class is dependent on one exam. And instead of one topic per exam, you have
study like
a whole subject that you gotta.
This is just one test.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
And I've seen some videos, I don't know, in some movies actually, where there's a thing called cold call or something like that.
Yeah.
So
the
explain
good old
to
cold
us.
call.
Explain to us what that actually means.
So, the cold call is when a professor randomly picks people to ask or answer questions in the classroom. Usually they'll pick the people that are not paying attention or the ones that didn't do their so-called homework. And it's the most stressful thing, I would say.
Really?
I've been cold called a couple times. It's being put on the spot and having to spit out a law or
Terminologies.
or terminologies or give a little case brief on a case. It can be stressful because some of the things that they look for in school is what law was used and how did they apply that law to the rule. And if you didn't read the case, you don't know anything. And if you get a question wrong, the teacher feels disrespected. And most of the time, if you get it wrong, get out of my class.
Really?
Yeah.
So tell us your experience. Tell us one of your questions that you got called.
So I was usually good with cold calling. I always read the cases and whatnot. As far as terminology, that's the hardest thing because you got to spit it out verbatim. And I know one of my professors, my 1L year, she loved to cold call. And I got cold called once for a specific law. I got it wrong. I missed a couple words. She got upset and whatnot. The next day, she cold called me again about that same law, which I didn't even look back to.
Oh, no.
I got it wrong again.
No.
Third time the charm, I got it right. But it's an embarrassing moment, especially in law school. Everybody's looking at you. Is he going to get it right this time? And no, but she was happy that I got it the third time.
What was it?
It was the law for torts.
Torts, okay.
The very basic civil law.
Yeah. And what was the question? Do you remember? Was it just?
It was that specific law.
Oh, okay.
She wanted the law, and because of that moment, I still have that law memorized verbatim in my head.
Wow, that was good.
Yeah,
that was good. And that's not what you specialize on, right? Or do you?
Right now, no, I specialize in corporate law.
Okay.
But in law school, you gotta
do all of them, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you finish law school, you're happy, right? You get that happy moment, you get your little ceremony, and then it goes into bar exam.
Yeah,
correct?
that happiness lasts a good probably 15 minutes. Then you got to get into bar prep mode.
Okay, so explain to us what bar prep really is.
Bar prep it's a whole bunch of stuff. So with the bar exam, it's a 2-day process. I believe it's about 6 hours every day of straight writing and multiple choice. So the first day is about 200 multiple choice questions. You have, I think they estimate about 1:20 per question for a question that should take about 2 to 3 minutes to answer.
Oh, man.
So you don't have time to even breathe during the bar exam. So you do that, and then the next day is essay writing. So you get 6 questions, which don't seem like a lot, but you don't even have time to put your pen down or you're typing. You gotta continue, and and then you wait about 2 months for your results. So those 2 months, you got anxiety waiting for that result. Did you pass or did you not pass? And
have you taken this exam before?
I have took it in July, just to practice, get a feel for it, understand what it's like. I got close to passing it, but I'm sitting again in February, hopefully.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna be there.
Yeah.
So you take it in person or online?
So it's all on our in person. Here in Phoenix, they do it at the convention center. They put all 700 of us in a room, and yeah, I know during COVID, they were allowed to do it online for 1 semester, or 1 bar exam.
So during law school, is there a moment that you get prepared for a bar exam, a specific course?
Yeah, so I know with my law school in specific, in order to get your Juris Doctorate, you have to complete a bar prep course. So a lot of people didn't understand the reasoning behind it. I actually love that idea. Just so the school prepares you for the bar exam, and it's a very helpful course.
That makes sense.
Most schools do 1 to 2 courses as a requirement.
That's good. Did you know your average on your class that passed the bar exam or anything like that? Like your school
no, I didn't look for the July bar. I didn't look into the average, but usually our school, the thing is with my school is we studied civil law. So a lot of people took the civil bar exam, which is totally different from the UBE bar exam, and that's another struggle. If you go to a civil law school that practices civil law, you got to adjust your thinking and the laws for common law.
You have to adjust to it. Dang, that's pretty cool. That's
pretty cool. It's
so
fun.
That's about the law schools. It really matters where you go.
Yeah, 100%.
So it really does matter.
It does, yeah, but it doesn't matter as far as rankings.
ranking. So a T14 wouldn't really matter to a median.
My school is pretty average. The one I went to, Southern University Law Center. I always say this: we could destroy any Harvard student in a courtroom. But that just depends on what you are bred to do. I know Harvard is very business oriented. Their law schools, they're top of the line for corporate law and whatnot. My school is very good for trial, criminal law, politics. A lot of people that graduate from my school end up becoming political in Louisiana and make it pretty far in that. So it all depends on what you want to do and what you want to practice, not as far as what school you want to go to, because this is more prestigious than the other.
And how you have the different schools. I want to know if they're really prestigious. What's the difference of applying to a prestigious school than to a regular school?
The difference is your pocket's got to be big. That's the biggest thing. Obviously, your LSAT score has to be pretty high, your GPA. If you want to get into a T14, you got to have at least a 3.8 GPA. You're looking at a 160, 165, even 170 for your LSAT.
And what's the highest on the LSAT?
It's a 180.
180 is high.
Which is
really high. 95.
It's very hard to get.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what really helps you get into law school, right? That's the exam that you need to take.
Yeah, you got to take the LSAT to get into law school. But I know right now a lot of schools are dropping the LSAT.
Yeah.
So it's just GPA focused, which I'm not too stoked about, because the students that are incoming, it's going to be harder for them to get in, I feel.
Because there's no LSAT.
There's no LSAT, so a person who could get into law school with a 3.5, they got to raise it to a 3.8 now to compete, because there's no LSAT to help with that.
So to the audience that is watching right now, what would you recommend them doing right now?
If they want to go to law school?
To a big law school. T14 privilege.
You gotta, if your GPA is not a 3.6 or 3.7, you gotta really put work to get it up there. That's the main thing. And then your LSAT score. If your LSAT score is below 165, I would consider going somewhere else. Because it's not just about getting in, it's the people you're competing with at that point. If you struggle to get to that position, you're going to struggle with your peers. And then you're going to get academically dismissed because you're going to be the bottom of the bunch.
So is curved? Or are you saying that law school is majority curved?
All law schools are curved, and if you don't meet a specific GPA requirement, you get academically dismissed. Everybody could produce an A paper on their final. There's still a certain percentage that need to fail, a certain percentage that gets an A, a B, and a C. So you could produce a perfect paper, but if everybody else produced that perfect paper as well, or even better, you could fall on the very bottom end of the curve. And that's what I mean is, if you're not built for a T14 school, I don't recommend it, because you're competing with those level of students, and the chances of you being academically dismissed, which people don't think of when they're applying to T14s, is very high.
So how did you do, because you moved to Louisiana, correct? That was an out-of-state school.
Yeah.
How did you do for housing? How did you do for loans? How did you do for adapting?
So for housing, the law center itself didn't have housing. I know the school itself had housing beside the college. What I did is I looked at the costs of apartments. I found them pretty reasonable. And it was about a 20-minute drive from the school. So I went, found a nice apartment. It was pretty cheap. And I said I'd rather live in an apartment by myself with no roommates. Very quiet area for studying purposes and whatnot. And I feel like that's the way that a lot of law students go to as well. They don't usually live on campus because of the noise, the partying. Yeah. We gotta study more than the average college student.
Correct.
So we need our quiet space and our space alone. So I always recommend finding an apartment complex that is nice and quiet for that.
And like you said, studying is very important. To people that are still in their undergrads, what do you recommend them for studying? Because you need strategies, correct?
You got to build a schedule. That's the most important thing, and they teach that in your first year of law school. So when you're in law school, they always recommend that you build a 8-minute schedule. We're focused on every 8 minutes. not like every hour, like in this hour I'm going to do this, next hour I'm going to do this. You should build your schedule per 8 minutes. So in 8 minutes I'm going to be studying this. Even your next 8 minutes could also be studying that same course, but it should be very narrowed down. So you know exactly what you're doing at a specific time, because especially in your first year, if you don't study, it's going to be very difficult for you to pass in. Academic dismissal is very, very brutal.
And it's not only just passing, but the fact that you're paying for that and you're not even studying.
Yeah, 100%. I know in law school, a lot of people, they just left because they couldn't deal with that pressure. They just dropped out. Mm-hmm.
So how would you prepare yourself for that so you don't drop out?
Building a schedule.
Yeah,
everybody knows how to study in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell people you got to study this way to pass this class, because everybody's built different and how they study is different. But one thing I could say is building that schedule, knowing what you're going to do, what you're going to study, and how you're going to study is probably the biggest key to success in law school.
It's learning how to study.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody listening, learn how to study.
And like, if you don't know how to study, figure it out. Because in law school, if you're not studying 9 hours a day, it's going to be very difficult. And I'm talking the first year.
The first year.
The first year is difficult in that sense. After the first year, it gets a little lenient.
Because you learn more about it.
You learn more, and the classes you're taking are not as hard. Your first year classes are pretty brutal.
Adapting to those new words.
Exactly. The new words, how to write an exam, how to answer the questions. You're still new to that stuff. It's not like a typical exam that you would write in math or in science. A law school exam is built and structured totally different. Mm-hmm. So you got to adapt to that.
So there's no one that can go heads up to law school. Is there a way you can learn about law school before you go to law school?
YouTube. But if you plan on going to law school, I recommend don't try to learn the laws. Understand how to structure an exam or an answer. So in law school, we go by either an IRAC form, a CRAC form, or a CREAC form. And with the simplest one, in my opinion, my favorite one is the IRAC form, which is you state your issue first, mm-hmm. and then next paragraph you state your rules, next paragraph your analysis, and then your conclusion. And that's usually how a law school exam is built. And you could have a good answer to your exam, but if it's not structured like that, you could fail. You'll get dropped a lot of points because of that.
So your structure got to be good.
Structure is something that you could learn off the bat, mm-hmm. from a YouTube video or word of mouth. You can't really learn the law unless you're in class, I would say. Mm-hmm. Understanding the law in the cases. The most important thing is understanding the structure of
the paper.
Yeah.
And it's the same type of structure for every class when you go there.
Yeah, so it's structured the exact same way that they would want it on a bar exam. Mm-hmm. Obviously, every teacher has their preference for structure. Some professors prefer a CRAC method, which is conclusion, rule, analysis, and then conclusion again.
So they put the abstract at the start.
Yeah, so understand what your professor wants, how they want the writing to be. I know in my first year that's something I struggled with is I'll give the rule, I'd give a perfect analysis, but my structure was off. And I would get docked. If essay is worth 15 points, you could get docked 5, 6, 7 points just because of your structure, yeah.
Jeez. Mm-hmm. That's hard to take. I think undergrad, they're a little easier with you. But when it comes to law school,
undergrad is much more lenient than law school. Yeah.
Dang. So the main question, it would be, why should you pursue law school? What would you tell people? Like, why should they pursue law school?
I would say pursue it if you like the law. If you don't like the law, I would recommend you don't pursue it. I know a lot of people, they look at the law or a lawyer, they think of money and status and all these nice things, but if you're going to law school for those purposes, to have that status or have that the money and the nice cars and stuff, one, you're not gonna succeed in law school, and two, it's gonna be a rude awakening.
It's gonna be bored, and
It's gonna be boring. You're not gonna like the job,
stressful work,
and you're gonna find something else. If you're not dedicated to the law, don't do it. There's lawyers that are making your average pay, but they're happy because they're doing what they like to do.
Public defender, right?
Public defenders. The thing is with law school is people have this weird conception that I want to go to law school because of the money that I'm going to be making. Instead of putting that $400,000 into tuition, go start a business, go do something else, and you'll make way more money. I recommend if you actually genuinely love the law, then you're going to strive in law school.
So to the people that are confused and they want to go but they don't know what to do, what would you tell them?
Watch some movies. So for me, one of my favorite shows is Suits. And that's the show that really got me into law.
I haven't watched it yet.
You gotta watch it.
I have to.
It's very accurate to
Really?
what you're gonna be doing too.
A lot of people say that it's not. It's like,
I think Suits is the most accurate representation of a lawyer and what you're gonna be doing. In corporate law, at least.
that's what I want to do.
Better Call Saul. On the other hand, you might not have a drug dealer chasing after you with a gun, but it's fun. That's what I wanted to do, was criminal law.
Criminal law?
Yeah, but then I had a change of heart, and now I'm doing corporate.
That's good.
And I see that Suits is very similar to that.
Man.
Yeah.
That's so cool. It's called. I forgot what I was gonna say. So for law school, I just got it. People that get into law school, do they tend to stress out finding a summer job or summer internship? Because you have to get an internship during summer, correct?
No.
You don't have to, but is it good to get it?
It's very good to get it. So your first year of law school, depending on if you're full-time or part-time, full-time you're not allowed to work. Part-time you're allowed to work 20 hours, I want to say. But your first year you're not allowed to have an internship or anything. They want you to focus on the school. That summer you're allowed to have an internship. And then during the second year and third year you're allowed to have an internship. And I recommend it because it really helps with just the knowledge of the law too. When you're talking to real lawyers or working with real lawyers and understanding how the process works, it's easier to put it on paper for an exam.
And what are usually like the internships for school?
So usually you're pretty much a law clerk or side by side with a lawyer, and they give you advice on how to do things and whatnot. I know for me, I didn't do an internship, but I joined the law clinic. Yeah, so I was sworn in as a student attorney, and they give you real life cases of real problems, and you got to fight them in court, and you got to win these cases. Like, this is a real case that you're doing as a student attorney, and if that's a route that's possible, I recommend that.
Be a student.
Because you're actually a lawyer in a way, because you're taking on a real case. You got that attorney-client privilege. You're doing all those things for this person, finding how to win the case for them.
So you had to represent somebody during law school?
I represented 3 cases. Yeah.
Man, I would have been scared. I would have like, this student that represented me. What if I like?
The first case, the first instance in front of a judge, I pretty much blacked out. I spit out everything that I needed to say, whatever. I was scared. I was nervous, but the judge pulled me aside after, and he's like, "Hey, you did a very good job your first day," and that kind of gave me motivation. Second day in court, I was totally fine, and it's just that first day. You're scared. You don't know what to do.
No, I've seen some videos of the Harvard Amos Court. I was watching those videos and I was like, man, I don't know how they can talk for like 5 to 10 minutes.
You get lost in your words sometimes.
Yeah,
you don't understand
terminology.
Yeah, 100%. But it's fun. I recommend joining a law clinic and getting that real first-hand experience.
And many people that, like me, that want to go to law school ask ourselves whether we should join some sort of legal field works while we're still in our undergrad. Should I join?
It's not. For me, I didn't. So I don't see the reason to do that. Because I did perfectly fine without it. I know some people did. and they liked it. So it's all preference. It all depends on what you want to do and if you think that it's going to benefit you. But if you think because you had a job or you studied something like a business law degree, that it's going to help you in law school, it's really not going to, in my opinion. I did business law as an undergrad, but I didn't have a law job or anything, and I saw no benefit to it.
No benefit to it? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because I ask myself a lot, like every time, like, man, I want to join a law firm,
Yeah.
at least work as a, little...
You'll get that experience, and I guess the benefit to that is you could get an internship through them, so finding an internship is easy.
Mm-hmm.
Just it's not as easy as you think to find an internship in law school. And then you also have a job after. Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard.
Yeah.
What's it called? For students that are in undergrad, what would you tell them to do right now in their 4th year before they go to law school? What would you tell them to do? Should they pursue something before they go into law school? Should they start taking their LSATs? What should they do?
Focus on the LSAT. Focus on that LSAT, especially if your GPA is not where you want it to be. Your LSAT, depending on the school that you want to, you got to find out the school's LSAT requirements, see, and then have an idea of where you want to go, and then aim for that LSAT score. And I'm not talking borderline or being exactly on that level for the LSAT score. Try and shoot a little bit above, because there's 1,000 other students applying, and 800 of them are probably going to have those exact same LSAT or GPA as you. And you got to put into perspective, there's 1,000 students applying, but only 200 are usually going to get accepted.
Wow.
So you really got to excel to get recognized.
Yeesh.
Mm-hmm.
That's scary to think about.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, it motivates you if you get into it.
100%. And we're talking about this as in it's a scary thing or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier than you think. You just need to put your mind to it.
Mm-hmm.
The LSAT, 2 months of studying.
2 months studies.
I recommend 2 months of studying. I'm not talking 8 hours every day. Try and do 3 to 4 hours, and you'll be perfectly fine with it. The most important thing is making sure your GPA is there.
Making sure you pass all your classes
Yeah.
and days and get used to.
Yeah. Making sure your GPA is high, that's the most important thing, because the GPA, you can't change that.
Mm-hmm.
You in your 4th year, you know how hard it is to raise it just 0.5.
0.5, yeah.
Yeah. But your LSAT score, if you don't get it the score that you want the first time, just do it again.
Do it again.
And get the score that you want.
And that really matters at the end of the day if you want to apply to school.
100%.
So, I know the question would be, law school, as you say, they see that scary, and the only thing you learn from there is law. But is there anything else you would say that you learned from law school other than just law?
A lot. You learn a lot of stuff. Obviously, the law. You learn how to talk. That's the most important thing. You really know how to talk to people in a professional manner. You also learn how to act a certain way, in a professional sense. You know how it's a lifestyle, I would say. You learn a lot of stuff. Another big thing is politics. You're going to be talking politics a lot. You got to understand that you can't be biased when talking to people. That's a big thing with when talking with people in law school. If you have a certain bias with politics, you're not going to do well talking with other people.
Correct.
With politics or anything. Yeah. So understanding and knowing how to talk, that's a huge thing that law school taught me. Mm-hmm. Understanding how to conduct interviews or speaking in front of people that I would normally not want to speak with, such as a big group of people. Just a whole bunch of stuff. It teaches you, like I said, it's a lifestyle. It teaches you how to act a certain way where the image that you perceive to others is very valuable.
So it's easier, would you say it's easier to see someone be like, oh, he's a lawyer? Would it be easier to recognize somebody?
I think it is. I could tell who's a lawyer and who's not just by how they act and they talk. I don't know about the general public.
Uh-huh.
I can't really speak for that anymore. I could tell who's into a medical field and who's into a law field, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Spill some of us. Come on, spill the secret. Spill the secret.
So, I always feel like anybody in the medical field is really book smart. They understand their books, everything.
Mm-hmm.
You try to teach them something, and they'll catch on to it right away. But they're not the greatest usually at being street smart. Is what I say. That's how I look at it. And I'm not saying this for everybody in the medical field, but usually, they don't really know how to talk. They don't talk to people as much as lawyers.
They don't associate.
Exactly. They do their job, and also their job, they know what they have to do to get a specific result. If that makes sense. If I'm going into a surgery or something, my doctor should know exactly what to do and how to do it.
Yeah.
And the law field is totally different. So in the law field, you don't need to be book smart.
No.
And most of the time, lawyers are not book smart.
Really?
Yeah. They're pretty book smart, but not on the level of the doctor.
Okay.
But we're street smart. We know how to communicate. We know how to manipulate.
Yeah.
We know how to get what we want. And because we talk to people on a daily, and it teaches us those traits. So there's no ups and downs to either or. Because I know people always put the medical field against the law field. Which one's better? Both of them are equally as great.
Yeah.
It's just there's something that one field is really good at,
Mm-hmm.
and the other which is another thing that they're good at.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's cool stuff.
And as you say, book smart. How many books do you read in law school? That's what I like to know. Maybe in one semester, do you have to read a lot? If you don't like reading, would you do good in law school?
It depends. I hated reading. I despised reading. I hated it. I probably have read half a book in my lifetime. If that. Once I got into law school, you need to read constantly. Your law school, 90% of it is reading. Reading cases, reading statutes, everything. But you forget about the reading part if you actually like the law. So if a professor gives me 3 cases to read, I have no problem with it because it's like a story and it's something that you like. It's the law.
Yeah.
So I learned to love reading.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think reading should discourage you from law school because I hated reading getting into law school.
But when you got
But
there,
when I got there, it was totally fine. Yeah. And another thing that law school teaches you is how to read. Yeah.
How to read. What do you mean how to read?
Like I said, I probably read half a book in my lifetime. My reading was slow. It wasn't the greatest. But getting into law school...
Do you give you strategies to read? Or
100%. It teaches you how to find an issue in a case, how to find the rules and where they're trying to apply the rules, the specific words that they're using from the law to win their case. It all intermingles with each other. It teaches you how to spot those things. So that if you have a 10-page case, you're not reading 10 pages, you're reading probably 3.
Man, that's cool, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then now we're going to drive into the last question. I like to ask this question because I think it's more personal, but I like to know. Should I know what type of law I want to practice going into law school?
No. And don't focus on it too much. Like I said, for me, I went into it wanting to do criminal law. Once I finished law school, I ended up going to the corporate field. I know probably 50% of the people that are in law school and have graduated still don't know what they want to do. I wouldn't focus too much on it. You know all the laws. You know exactly what law is fun, what law is not fun for you. And then wherever you see an opportunity and you see that a law is exciting to you, like criminal law or corporate law or tort, you take it and you see if you like it. That's one beauty with law school is, if I'm practicing tort law and I don't like it, I could switch and go to corporate law. You know all the laws, so you could intermingle, you could do whatever you want.
don't think there's any more questions for me. I think we're definitely gonna have to run it back sooner or later. It was a pleasure to have you here, Leo.
Pleasure being here.
It was amazing. So thank you guys for watching, and any questions, let me know.
Have a good one.
Appreciate it, bro. That was good. That was really good. That went fast too. Dang, 35 minutes.
Perfect.